Ultron is the newest hero on the block and our very first flying support in Marvel Rivals. With that comes a layer of complexity that we haven't seen quite in other heroes. So that's why before you go lock in Ultron in your ranked games, we're gonna break down everything you need to know about Ultron so you can get good at Ultron as quickly as possible. Now it says that only 10% of you are subscribed, so if you don't want to miss out on all the new content that's coming in 2.5, including tier lists, breakdowns, and more advanced map guides, you're gonna want to smash that subscribe button and let's jump in. Now the first ability on the list is his primary ENCEPHALO ray. Yes, I had to search up how to say that. Fun fact, ENCEPHALA comes from encephalon, which is the Greek word for brain. So it's kind of like a brain ray. Okay, anyways. Now this primary is going to output damage with a small amount of charge up and then a slightly larger blast towards the end of it. I like to think of it as a mini Spartan laser from Halo. Now this ability is incredibly aim-centric, as in you're going to want to track them with the full startup and the ending to get max damage, and if you can, you're going to do quite a bit of damage, but it's really hard. It's very, very difficult mechanically. One of the harder mechanical primaries that we've seen, maybe the hardest that we've seen in Marvel Rivals. Now something interesting about this though is that it has no fall off, meaning that you can play in the air really far away, and you can still trade damage with an enemy that can't touch you at all because most characters have massive amounts of fall off. So this is a playstyle that we'll talk a little bit about later, but before that, let's talk about his movement ability. Now Ultron has perma flight, meaning that you can fly as much as you want, which is the first support hero to be able to do that, but his movement ability, dynamic flight, allows him to lunge aerially in one direction pretty quickly, and then you're gonna enter a state of acceleration where you're gonna move faster than normal. This means that you're easily gonna be able to dodge enemy fire, dip behind cover, or chase down enemies and then be faster aerially, which is just gonna be good all around to deal damage, heal, or get into good positions. Now, his first heal ability is called Imperative Patch, and what this is a drone that gets attached to a target and creates an area of effect healing to that target and anyone around them, and it can heal everyone if they're within the radius. So if your entire team, including yourself, is in there, you could all be healed, but you could also put it on an isolated target as well and just heal that person. Now, even though this is a little drone that attaches to them, it cannot be destroyed, so no one's going to be able to deny your healing just by shooting it. That would probably be a bit broken. Now, something really important here is that this has no cooldown, meaning that you can actually move it from person to person without any penalty, and min-maxing this is one of the best ways to get the most value out of Ultron, because there are going to be times where you're going to want to put it in the central group of your team, trying to heal as many people as possible and building up your ult quickly, but there are also other times where you want to put it on an off-angling DPS or a flyer to enable them and maybe even go with them as well. Another core aspect about this heal ability is that you do not have to be present for it to constantly be healing, freeing you up to be a lot more proactive if you want to go for plays, go off angle with the DPS, make a push with your ultimate, whatever the case may be. You do not need to be around and you could still be healing your team, which is very interesting. But the second heal ability is called Imperative Firewall, and what this does is gives the patch target, Ultron, and anyone within range an extra bit of bonus health. This is going to be a really important ability to give your team a burst of sustain in moments where you're all are like trying to get to safety, run away, or endure an ability or ult. And it also is going to be useful when you're trying to apply a lot of pressure, go in and be really proactive. Remember, it gives bonus health, so you don't need your team to have taken damage for it to be worth it. Sometimes if you know you're going to take damage, you know you're going to be aggressive, then you could just pop it and then you're going to get all that extra bonus HP throughout the team and you're going to be able to go make a play with it. Now, Ultron's ultimate, Rage of Ultron, is actually incredibly fast charging. You're going to be able to build this up very quickly if you have high amounts of heals, you know, grouping it up with the team and doing quite a bit of damage. And it's going to simultaneously heal and damage depending on what you're shooting at. So this is just going to apply a lot more pressure. It's not necessarily going to do enough to keep your team alive when they're being hit by ultimate combos or anything like that, but it does provide a crazy amount of heals or damage. So in a close fight, you could easily turn it with this ability, or if you gain some sort of advantage, you could use it as the driving force to help close out the team fight, because your team knows that the enemy is going to be weaker and they're going to get extra health, so it can do a little bit of both. Now, Ultron himself is still vulnerable while using this, while you are CC immune, so you can't be gripped or anything after the ultimate has already started. You can still get shot and killed, so be a little bit careful of certain threats. Characters that have range damage, burst damage. Hawkeye, Black Widow can still target you and kill you even while you're midair during this ultimate, and you can still get your ultimate canceled if somehow you get crowd control during the startup of the ultimate. So, you know, you don't want to start it super close to a Bucky or something like that so he can hook you, but as long as you're playing your range, you should be fine. And if you want to, you can use your movement ability first, pop into the ultimate, and makes it really, really hard to hit you. Now, his team-up ability, Nano Ray, is a team-up ability with specifically Iron Man, and it's a ray that is going to allow him to heal and do damage at the same time with a really long range. You would be surprised how far this reaches, and you could do it at the same time by cleaving it through both your teammates and the opponents. As you can see, you could do quite a bit of damage to both, and it's another healing ability to add to Ultron's pretty limited healing kit, so I do think that it's rather powerful in combination with the rest of him. Of course, once again, it's pretty aim-centric, and I do think that all around, Ultron is a very mechanically demanding character, and positioning isn't going to be easy either, so I do think Ultron is on the harder side for heroes that have been released in this game. Let's break down some core tips and strategies that you can incorporate to get the most out of Ultron in his current state. Number one, the general playstyle of Ultron is one of a damage-dealing ranged poker. He's really going to like to play in poke compositions where he's dealing damage from range with his team, trying to take off angles and force people out of position, and this means he's going to play really well with poke characters. Magneto is a great example. Hela, Hawkeye, other flyers are also going to be great for him because they play ranges, and he can actually heal these characters by applying a drone to them. Unlike other supports that typically have to actively heal a flyer, he does not, and in a case where he could put one drone on him and another flyer, he stands near the flyer, y'all take angles together, y'all both are going to get plenty of healing and then burst a bonus health when he wants to. Now, another thing about him is that he doesn't need to be around to heal, so you could have a core force sitting together that are all getting healing while you're kind of off doing your own thing, either poking and prodding, trying to finish off targets, or just generate damage and advantage for your team. And this makes him rather independent, meaning that you could still be doing all of your healing jobs and responsibilities while not really being active in the current fight. Maybe you're taking a duel with someone on an off angle or something like that. This is all possible with this character and could be even viable in certain situations. Now remember, this character has no fall off range, so you could be really, really far away from enemies, and especially if you're up against characters that want to close in the gap to you, a part of your job is going to be to constantly distance away from them. Now, one of the things about specifically Ultron is that he is most likely going to be best in triple support compositions. One of the things he's lacking is a lot of raw heals. He suffers from some of the problems that characters like Mantis and Atom do, maybe even to a stronger extent, where you're not going to be a great support in a dual support composition. You just don't provide enough heals to your team, but you do provide a good supplement to other supports. And in a triple support composition, you're truly activated to basically pocket the characters you want to pocket, because one of the best parts about his kit is the fact that you could put a drone on a really hard to heal target and they can go on a little side mission with extra bits of support. So imagine you and an Iron Man like flanking and going really aggressive by yourself, taking control of a part of the map and dealing damage from it together. This is really, really great, but it's hard to do this if you're just stuck with one other support. But in a triple support composition, you can just make it work. Now, the third tip we'll give you is how to maximize your healing. Remember, this has no cooldown on his healing drone, so you're going to want to move it around often to get the most value out of it. There's almost always a better place you can place it after a couple of seconds has passed, so you're going to want to constantly be moving it. That being said, you also need to decide how you're going to use it. Even though you can put it center mass in your team and try to heal all of them, there's going to be a lot of cases like with the off-angling or flanking Iron Man where you're going with them, where it's better to just heal a specific person or a specific target, because if y'all can go on a flank and get a kill or two, it doesn't really matter how much raw healing your team has, but there's going to be times where you're going to need to put it center mass to keep your team alive. It kind of depends on your composition and who your other support is, but most of the time you're trying to create a positional advantage or a playmaking advantage with Ultron rather than just trying to win the game with a raw heal amount. Then number 4, let's talk about positioning with Ultron. Of course, you're going to want to play natural cover. I think in general, flying characters all positioned similar, but with Ultron, you can play really, really far back, and you're still going to want to play around pieces of cover that you can move in and out of. Ideally, you don't have to use your lunge just to run away. You're close enough to a piece of cover that you could just dip behind it. If people chase you, you have your movement to make a play on them or get even further away. Another thing that's really important is to understand your threats. Certain threats you're going to be able to play at really far ranges and they can't do anything, but against other characters that can poke you from even the furthest ranges, you might want to close in that gap and play them from a very high vertical angle. Like an example of this is Hawkeye. While Hawkeye will typically be playing isolated, trying to get a pick off on you, I wouldn't want to play him really far away because he could actually just whittle us down. I would much rather play an angle that doesn't peek him until I'm ready to make a play on him or help my team make a play on him as well. And because he's isolated, he's actually a character that you could win a duel with, especially if you're playing really high above him, because it's really hard for people to aim when characters are directly above them, especially when you're moving so fast with your movement ability. Now, with all that being said, what are the core weaknesses of Ultron and how would he impact the meta? Right now in his current state, I do think that Ultron is on a little bit of the weaker side of safe. Does this mean that we won't see this character in ranked? No, he's going to be in every single game. And I do think that being better than the enemy Ultron in that matchup is going to be important as well. But right now, Ultron's healing is a little bit lacking and his damage is a little bit lacking as well. I think they did this because they're a little bit afraid of a flank support, as everyone should be. This character being busted would not have been great for everybody. But that being said, I definitely think that this character will get hot fixes and most likely will get buffs before this video is even out or soon afterwards. So if any core changes are relevant to his playstyle, I will pin it in the top comment if it releases soon after the launch of Season 2.5. But let me know how you personally feel about Ultron, and are you excited to grind this hero? He's a lot of fun. I'm sure you're going to love him. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash that like and subscribe. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.